Before it became one of the most iconic comedies of all time, Animal House nearly collapsed under its own chaos, on screen and off. It was wild, it was rowdy, it was tasteless, and it was genius. But behind the pranks, food fights, and toga parties was a film held together by a cast of first-timers, a reluctant university, and a nude scene that almost didn't happen, until Donald Sutherland, in a bold moment of solidarity, dropped trow to ease Karen Allen's nerves. Yep, we'll get there. But first, let's rewind. National Lampoon's Animal House exploded into theaters in 1978, directed by John Landis and written by Harold Ramis, Doug Kenney, and Chris Miller. It starred a then 28-year-old John Belushi, already a household name thanks to Saturday Night Live, in his very first film role. Alongside him were future stars like Tim Matheson, Thomas Hulse, Kevin Bacon, Stephen Furst, Peter Riegert, and of course, Karen Allen in her debut. At its core, Animal House is about a fraternity on the edge, Delta Tau Chi, a band of misfits and party animals who go head-to-head with their clean-cut nemesis, Omega Theta Pi and the authoritarian Dean Wormer. It's got pranks, mayhem, sabotage, and one of the greatest parade crash finales ever filmed. But what made this raunchy romp legendary wasn't just the story. It was the way it was made. The film had humble beginnings, born from the warped genius of National Lampoon magazine. Ramis, Kenney, and Miller all mined their real-life college misadventures, from drunken brawls to absurd pledging rituals. In fact, Pinto was screenwriter Chris Miller's real fraternity nickname at Dartmouth, and when they pitched their script to studios, they were laughed out of the room. 250 colleges rejected the idea of filming this filthy script on their campuses. That is, until the president of the University of Oregon, still regretting his past decision to reject The Graduate, took a chance and said yes. The only caveat? Don't mention the school by name. They didn't want that kind of credit. With a meager $3 million budget, the crew moved into the Roadway Inn in Springfield, Oregon, and got to work. The Delta actors, including Riegert, McGill, and Widows, were brought in early to bond, party, and essentially become their characters. And they did. A piano from the hotel lobby was stolen and moved into Bruce McGill's room. That room became Party Central. They were living the movie before the cameras even rolled. John Belushi, however, was kept separate. Landis lodged him in a house with his wife, away from the madness. He was flying back and forth between the set in New York to tape SNL. Despite his legendary partying reputation, Belushi stayed clean during filming, seeing Animal House as his big break. Landis was right to bet on him. His cafeteria scene, where he piles up food, crushes a beer can on his head, and utters the immortal line, "I'm a zit," was entirely improvised. The cast's reactions? Real. Because they had no clue what he was going to do. Belushi's gift wasn't just comedic timing. It was presence. He barely spoke, yet he dominated every frame. Landis described him as a cross between Harpo Marx and the Cookie Monster. And when you watch him chug a fifth of Jack Daniels, really iced tea, or rally the Deltas with a rousing "Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?" speech, you get why Bluto became an icon. But here's where things get cheeky. Karen Allen, who played Katie, Boone's girlfriend, was asked to shoot a nude scene. Nothing graphic, just a brief moment where she drops her towel. Still, she hesitated. She was new to film, and understandably nervous. Enter Donald Sutherland. Sutherland, a seasoned pro and the biggest name in the cast, was only on set for 3 days. For his brief role as the pot-smoking Professor Jennings, he was offered either $75,000 up front or 2% of the gross. He took the flat fee. The movie would go on to gross over $141 million. Oof. But Sutherland's biggest contribution might not have been his performance. To help Alan feel more comfortable, he made a surprising offer. He'd also do his scene nude. He'd bare his backside first. No big monologue, no grand gesture, just, if it makes you feel better, I'll drop mine too. That act of empathy broke the tension. Alan later said, if Donald Sutherland can do this, I can bare mine too. It was a moment of camaraderie in a film built on absurdity. The production wasn't without its hiccups or full-blown disasters. When the Delta cast attended a real frat party at Oregon's SAE house, it led to an actual brawl. James Widows lost a few teeth. Bruce McGill got a black eye. And when Belushi returned and heard what happened, he had to be physically restrained from confronting the football players involved. That's not a deleted scene. That's real life. There was also chaos behind the camera. Universal's president wanted the Dexter Lake Club scene, where the Deltas inadvertently crash a black club, removed, fearing it would spark race riots. But Landis screened it for Richard Pryor, who loved it. Pryor sent a handwritten note to the studio head that simply read, "This movie is fucking funny. Leave it alone." Then there was the infamous float featuring a bust of JFK, designed to be destroyed in the parade finale with eerily specific damage. It was written, designed, but wisely cut by Landis for being too dark. That wasn't the vibe. In fact, the tone was key. Despite the vulgarity, the movie balanced madness with heart. Elmer Bernstein's soaring score, a dramatic accompaniment to the madness, wasn't a parody. Landis asked him to treat the film like it was the Ten Commandments. The music elevated the idiocy. It believed in the chaos. And the actors? They weren't all stars, yet. Kevin Bacon, in his very first role, was so unknown that when he showed up at the premiere, the ushers didn't believe he was in the movie. He had to sit in the back. Karen Allen was just starting out. So was Thomas Hulse. And behind the camera, Landis was still proving himself after the Kentucky Fried Movie. Harold Ramis had written Boone for himself, but Landis said he looked too old. Ramis was so disappointed he refused a smaller role. Still, his fingerprints are all over the script. From the humor to the pranks, many of which were based on his college days. Oh, and remember Flounder catching groceries midair in the supermarket? That was all Stephen Furst. One take, every catch was real, thrown off camera by Landis and Tim Matheson. And yes, John Landis lost his office during the shoot. Why? Because he didn't have one. The budget was so tight, he didn't even get to see dailies for 3 weeks. Costumes were bought at thrift shops. Toga outfits were stitched by the wives of the crew. And still, this scrappy little movie became the highest grossing comedy of its time. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite moment from Animal House? The food fight? The Deathmobile? Or that unforgettable I'm a Zit scene? Drop your thoughts in the comments.